I'm Amy Goodman. Earlier this month, President Obama called for a world without nuclear weapons, soon after North Korea test-fired a long-range rocket. Speaking in Prague, Obama called for an immediate end to nuclear tests.
As the only nuclear power to have used a nuclear weapon, the United States has a moral responsibility to act. We cannot succeed in this endeavor alone, but we can lead it. We can start it.
The previous week, President Obama and Russian President Dmitry Medvedev had agreed on fast-track negotiations to slash their stockpiles to 23,000 nuclear weapons by about a third from the end of this year. New Mexico, home to the Los Alamos National Laboratory and the Sandia National Laboratories, is closely tied to the history of the nuclear bomb in this country. These labs were founded to coordinate the Manhattan Project's nuclear weapons research during World War II, and the very first nuclear weapon, named Trinity, was test-fired in Alamogordo, New Mexico. In fact, I just passed there yesterday. Energy Secretary Stephen Chu visited the Los Alamos and Sandia National Laboratories last week. He lauded the diverse non-nuclear weapons research that they're engaged in, but added, quote, "As long as other countries have nuclear weapons, we must have a nuclear stockpile." Well, my next guest is a longtime anti-nuclear activist and Jesuit priest who coordinates the annual Hiroshima Day Peace Vigil at Los Alamos. Father John Deere has been arrested more than 75 times for acts of civil disobedience against war and nuclear weapons, including last week while protesting the U.S. drone warplanes at the Creech Air Force Base in Nevada. He's written over 25 books. His most recent book is his autobiography. It's called A Persistent Peace, One Man's Struggle for a Nonviolent World. Well, last year, Archbishop Desmond Tutu nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize. Father John Deere joins me here in Albuquerque. Welcome to Democracy Now!
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with what President Obama said, talking about the abolition of nuclear weapons, though he said it wouldn't be in his lifetime.
Well, it's a great breakthrough to have a president even speak about a nuclear-free world. And we all rejoice in that he said that. But that's the key sentence for me, that he said, alas, this won't happen probably in our lifetime. And we have to say, the activists around the country, the peace and justice movement, not only does it have to happen in our lifetime, it has to begin and happen this year, next year, that we can't have 1,000 nuclear weapons, which is what the rumors are that he's going to propose. We go down to 1,000 nuclear weapons. We have to abolish all nuclear weapons, and it has to begin here in New Mexico. And so I think the movement around the country has to push the Obama administration harder than ever as it's beginning to talk about a nuclear-free world and really demand it now.
Give us the map of New Mexico, the nuclear map. I don't think many people realize someone once joked that if New Mexico were to secede from the nation, it would be the fourth greatest nuclear power in the world.
The third.
Third, excuse me.
It's a serious statement, actually. You know, and that's what brought me to New Mexico. According to the last census, it's the poorest state in the country. It's #1 in nuclear weapons, #1 in military spending, and you see everything. It's #1 in drunk driving, domestic violence, suicide, one of the worst education systems in the country. The land it's like a radioactive waste dump. And here in Albuquerque, there are more nuclear weapons at the airport than any other place
What do you
in the
mean
planet.
at the airport? I'm just about to go there to
right,
fly
and
out.
you'll see it as you fly out of the airport. If you look carefully in those mountains, those little white buildings, those are nuclear bunkers at Kirkland and Sandia. More than any other place on the planet, except perhaps one city in remote northern Russia. And at Los Alamos, the birthplace of the bomb, especially under the Bush administration, business has been booming. It's been pouring billions down there. He said to build a whole new generation of nuclear weapons. And he was going to start new pit production. Now, the good news...
What is pit production?
The core of the nuclear bomb, which is what Los Alamos does, and they send them elsewhere. The good thing, and that hasn't gotten much coverage, is that Obama has stopped that. But 70% of the work at Los Alamos is still war and destruction of the planet, and that is continuing, as you heard the Secretary of Energy just say last week. Our position is we want Los Alamos, Sandia, and Kirkland to be completely disarmed. We've got to get rid of these weapons and change it into a place where I get all those scientists to work on alternative energy sources and so forth and so on. And that's been my work here as part of a grassroots movement for the disarmament of Los Alamos through vigils and demonstrations and trying to raise the conversation that we should not continue to work on the manufacture and development of nuclear weapons. And that's our future.
I've been traveling through the state over the last few days, went to Santa Fe and Taos, both very near Los Alamos, and then yesterday to Mesilla, to the border, then up to Silver City. We passed near where the drone tests are taking place, not only in Nevada, where you were just arrested, but is that right here in New Mexico?
Well, the drones are flying, as I understand, Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, and New Mexico and Arizona on the border, flying nonstop to, monitor who's crossing into the country and then to assist in their arrest. So what's so amazing about New Mexico is you see everything is connected, all these issues of injustice and war, including the drones. And so we're trying to say the future of New Mexico it's really a symbol of the country. It's really stopping all of this and moving toward a new land of nonviolence.
John Deere, what kind of dialogue have you had with scientists at Los Alamos? I have met many in my travels here.
Well, not too much, sad to say, and there are many groups have met with scientists over the decades. I've been talking to people around the state. I've talked to students at Los Alamos, and we do these public demonstrations. You hear a lot of things behind the scenes. For example, that many are against the predominant work of nuclear weapons up there, and they're hoping that they would transform Los Alamos to, I've heard from scientists, to down to 20 to 30% of their work being for nuclear research and development. I'm saying it's got to be zero. That more of them want to use their energies for pro-human and energy development. The thing that's in New Mexico is, to my experience, is that it's the classic thing. This is just a job. And, the economy is basically revolves around the military and nuclear weapons here. And that is not a long-term way to develop the economy here or anywhere. It's a dead end, putting all these resources into that research. I think some of the scientists get it, but they say, hey, it's a job.
It's interesting that J. Robert Oppenheimer, the head of the Manhattan Project who developed the atomic bomb at Los Alamos, afterwards said, quoting from the Bhagavad Gita, I am the shatterer of worlds.
And then turned against it and was clearly ostracized here in New Mexico from the whole nuclear establishment. And so they don't want to go through what he went through. And that's why we need, like we abolished the death penalty here in New Mexico, we need to abolish the nuclear industry, nuclear weapons, and that's only going to happen through a movement involving everybody, the politicians, the scientists, the church people. And I think the whole country has to continue to the whole movement has to continue to put pressure on our government, on the military, and the scientists, saying, this doesn't work anymore, it's not making us more secure, it's the ultimate threat of terrorism, it's bad for the economy, and help everyone move away from this kind of security of a job in building these weapons.
Father John Deere, in 2003, in November, an entire battalion of the National Guard marched on your, was it rectory?
Yeah. Yes.
Why?
Well, as I wrote about this in my book, A Persistent Peace, I came here and was speaking out against nuclear weapons, speaking out against the war in Iraq, got kicked out of one of my parishes in the remote desert. And as I say, it's quite a state here where all the issues are up front in the desert. And one morning, I didn't know this was going to happen. I was shocked to find the entire battalion of the National Guard for northeastern New Mexico marching around the block in my small desert town, and the church and the rectory, chanting war slogans. They were about to leave for Iraq 1 week later. And then they stopped right at my front door, 75 young kids, all under 21, chanting, kill, kill, kill. We found out later, the leadership of the National Guard harassing me as outspoken voice against war and nuclear weapons, and harassing me. And it's really an indication of what's happened these last 10 years, that you could have a unit of the national U.S. military march and harass a private citizen at his home. I mean, this is like you might expect in the Wild West 150 years ago. What I did, as I wrote in the book, was I went right outside, told them to be quiet, and said, in the name of God, I order you not to go to Iraq, not to kill anyone, not to be killed, and to quit the U.S. military.